A 2nd century rabbinic text describes the objectives of a rabbi or a Torah teacher this way. The sages said 3 things: be deliberate in judgment, raise up many disciples, and make a fence around the Torah. Many teachers of Torah in the 1st century, and Jesus was one of them, engaged in the peculiar practice of building fences around God's commandments. What is a fence around the Torah? It's a protective measure around a commandment, an extra layer of rules. First, one has to break the tradition, and only then he will be in a position to transgress the actual holy commandment. The idea is that most people will stop at breaking the traditional rules and will not go further. For example, the Torah prohibits the use of yeast, fermentation, and leaven during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The tradition is stricter and forbids the use of all regular flour, even rice, due to the risk of natural fermentation occurring in all grain products. That's a fence. And Yeshua engaged in this type of fence building too. You have heard it was said, "You shall not commit adultery." But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Yeshua quotes the original commandment from Exodus 20:14, followed by the phrase, "But I say to you," and then come Jesus' fence. Jesus is not giving a new commandment or even changing it. He is adding a layer to it, making it harder to break, reinforcing it with a fence. His fence is a practical measure which will help one keep the commandment. According to his wisdom, adultery and unfaithfulness comes from looking at someone or something not yours, and then the desire is born. Jesus says that this is already sin, but merely looking at people is actually not prohibited in Torah, yet it makes perfect sense. So the fence is simple. Avoid inappropriate looking that leads to inappropriate desires, and you will not commit the actual sin of adultery. Follow this added rule and avoid trouble. This is Jesus building a fence around a biblical commandment, just like the other rabbis of his day.